Hello, class. This is Frank Lansinger, and today for my screencast, we're going to go over World War II and the Axis and Allied powers. This is the Flip Classroom screencast. This is for Professor Perry's EDUC 407 class. We start off the World II Axis powers. We got Germany, Italy, and Japan. The goal of these three were territorial expansion. Uh, and during this territorial expansion was the foundation of empires based on military conquest. The Axis powers also refer to themselves as the Rome, Berlin, Tokyo Axis, but it's just easier for us to remember them as the Axis powers. As we move on, we get into Germany. The leader of Germany during World War II was Adolf Hitler. He promoted German pride and anti-Semitism. The war actually started because of the invasion of Poland by the Germans on September 1st, 1939. During this time, from about 1939 to 1945, there were concentration camps set up to house and exterminate Jews and other people who were war criminals, also homosexuals, gypsies, people who were handicapped. So yeah, during that time, Germany was. I was actually not in Germany. It was actually in Poland. A lot of the concentration camps. Hitler wanted to hide these concentration camps from the people of Germany. So we move on to Italy. The leader of Italy during this time was Benito Mussolini. He was a fascist dictator from about 1925 to 1945, which was the end of the war. Italian fascism was rooted in the core concepts of Italian nationalism and the desire to restore and expand Italian territories. A lot of these countries, a lot of the people or the leaders of these countries, like Mussolini and Hitler, were hungry for power and expansion of their territory. As we move on to Japan, the leader during the time of World War II was Emperor Hirohito. He turned the country and its focus into nationalism and building up a strong military. Japan launched a surprise attack on U.S. naval base Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, which actually caused the United States to actually join World War II after remaining neutral for the first 2 years. As we move on from the Axis powers to the Allied powers, we move into Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States. This alliance was made to control the Axis powers and their aggression and their expansion. The goal of this Allied power movement was to create a peaceful post-war world. Yes, so as we move on, we start with Great Britain. The leader was Winston Churchill. Great Britain declared war with Germany on September 3rd, 1939, 2 days after they invaded Poland. The Battle of Britain was between Germany and obviously Great Britain. It was the first battle actually almost exclusively fought in the air, which was crazy to think of at the time. Britain actually survived the German attack, which was significant in Germany's first setback, actually. Even after the war, Great Britain lost its world power status because a lot of it was in rubble and ruin, so they had to rebuild. After that, we'll go to the Soviet Union. Leader was Joseph Stalin. He transformed society from an agrarian one to an industrial and military superpower. He signed a pact with Germany in 1939. It was a non-aggressive pact, but Germany, a few days later, invaded Poland. Interesting fact is the U.S. and the Soviet Union actually had an alliance from 1941 to 1945, which deteriorated after the war, obviously, and sparked the Cold War between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. We move on to the United States. The president of the U.S. during the time was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He actually served more terms than any president. He served four. Well, during his fourth, he actually passed away in office. But he started the U.S. in the war as neutral, but quickly joined 2 years into the war because of the bombing at Pearl Harbor. Like I said, December 7th, 1941. So yeah, that was the entrance of the U.S. into the World War. As we move on, we'll just go through a quick little review. The World War II was the largest armed conflict in human history. It was obviously between the Allied and Axis powers. It brought almost everyone into the war. It spanned 6 continents, so fighting was everywhere. It was also the beginning of a nuclear era. The A bomb was used in the war for the first time, and it was deadly. It could wipe out towns and cities and mass people. So it was the start of that era, and it also ended America's relative isolation from the rest of the world. America tried to be isolated from the world for an extended period of time to uh, promote just themselves. So, and for homework, I want you to write a one-page reflection on one of the Axis or Allied powers. Like we mentioned before in the lecture, the Allied powers consisted of the United States, Soviet Union, and Great Britain. The Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan. I want you to choose one of those six places and write about it. Write a one-page reflection in the papers. I want you to include which one you chose, their significance during the war, and what happened post-war in the country. So that's due tomorrow for homework. One page, include some details on what happened during and after the war. Thanks, class.